Good evening and welcome to Thursday Night Spotlight with Pastor George. We are so glad you are here for this pilot episode of this interview show that we're starting tonight on YouTube. And so I'm excited to have you here. We're broadcasting from downtown Mechanicsburg in the beautiful Briggs gathering place where friends come together. And so Hannah and I have come together and we are not social distancing, but don't have a fit, because she and I live together. This is my daughter of 19 years. I've known her that long, and she's a great person, and I'm happy to have her on as my first guest tonight. So welcome, Hannah. How are you this evening?
Well.
You're doing well. That
Yes.
is fantastic. What we're going to do this evening, folks, is we're going to talk to Hannah a little bit about herself and find out what she's doing and who she is and kind of the things that interest her. But then specifically, we're going to interview her about her spring break trip that happened right as things were kind of beginning to shut down here in our country. And she took a trip to Washington, D.C., to El Paso, Texas, and also as a part of being in El Paso to Juarez. And Juarez and El Paso are kind of an interesting group of cities because they are located very close together. In fact, Hannah's going to talk about that a little bit later and what makes them special. So we want to invite you to use the chat feature on YouTube. And if you have any questions for Hannah this evening, specifically about her trip, or I guess she can answer any questions, if we have time, we might be able to get to those this evening. So enough talking from me. Welcome to those of you who have joined us, and thank you for being here this evening. So we're going to go to Hannah, and we're going to ask Hannah if you would maybe just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. So I just finished my first year at Gordon College, which is super exciting. It's in Wenham, Massachusetts, which is about 45 minutes north of Boston. I study international affairs there, and I have a minor in theater as well. I also have been working a lot at Paul's Farm Market, so shout out to them. They're great. Farm Park's opening tomorrow, so lots of fun stuff happening there. Stop in sometime, say hi.
Well, I think we might have a picture of you. Let's see if I can find that picture of you working at Paul's Farm Market. This might be from a year or two ago, and this looks like one of the baby goats there at Paul's.
Is that on?
Oh, wait.
They can't.
There we go.
There it is.
There it is. Thanks. This looks like maybe one of the baby goats there at Paulus.
Yep.
And you're holding it. And I know the kids are really going to begin enjoy seeing them again as Cumberland County goes to yellow and Paulus maybe becomes open for that kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So you're saying you go to Gordon College.
Uh-huh.
And where is Gordon College located?
Well, like I said, it's in Wenham, Massachusetts, which is a small town in like the most northern part of Massachusetts. It's a picture of my beautiful campus. Oh my goodness.
Oh wow, that is beautiful, and it's a nice chapel right there in the.
So it's a small Christian liberal arts college. Yeah.
Oh, okay, great, fantastic. So, what else do you like to do for fun and enjoyment?
I watch Netflix. I watch Madam Secretary, which is probably the best TV show in history. I do art and I make TikToks.
Well, I think we might have one of your TikTok videos. I'm sure hoping that I can get it to run here. So you're pretty good at TikTok.
I'm pretty good.
Yeah, well, that's great. I've actually never made a TikTok video. I know it's a shocker to our audience out there. But so TikTok is all about kind of getting people to follow you and stuff. So you've got a few likes on this TikTok video. Is that right?
Yeah, like 6,000.
6,000 likes.
No big deal.
That's a lot of likes. And also some views.
Yeah, like 64,000.
64,000 views on this particular video. Yeah. That's like 1,000 times the number of views I have on a Sunday morning sermon. Let's see if we can get this to play. Okay, so that was the TikTok video. I think I might have had the words cut off there. Do you think we should dare try it again? No.
I'll fill you in if you're really that
All right.
curious.
You can find her on TikTok and follow her if you're interested in being the 64,001st person to view that video. Okay, so TikTok, that's a fun pastime. Netflix, Netflix is a fun pastime for you, Madam Secretary, and you're also a bit of an artist.
I guess.
Is that right?
Sure.
I think we might have a picture of some of your artwork somewhere here. Let me see if I can put that up for us. This is well, tell us about this.
It's a self-portrait inspired by Chuck Close's work. So, yeah.
All right, so on a scale of viewers, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, how close is that self-portrait to Hannah's actual resemblance? Give us there's a thumbs up. A scale of 1 to 10. Chat that in for us if you don't mind. All right, so anyway, tonight's topic is really about your experience at Gordon College and about the things that you're studying there. So why don't you tell us again about your degree and what you're working on and what do you like to do there?
So I'm majoring in international affairs, which is very similar to a degree in political science, except it has more of a international policy and events focus as opposed to like internal political theory and things like that. So I really enjoy that. I have a good time with that.
Yeah, what is there something in particular that inspired you to want to study international affairs?
I think Mr. Reedy's 10th grade AP Human Geography class.
Shout out to Mr. Reedy.
Sparked my love for all things worldly. Not worldly. All things world, culture, and affairs, and all that.
All right, yeah. Gordon College probably frowns upon you embracing all things worldly, right? Yeah. Okay. So at Gordon, besides being an academic in the world of academia, what else do you like to do there?
Well, I actually just added a minor in theater. Oh. I've been in one theater production, which was Titanic the Musical, where I got to play Alice, which was a pleasure and a joy. I think we have a picture for that if you want to show it. There I am. So
yeah,
sad.
Well, you look pretty upset here. What's happening?
Oh, I'm about to leave my husband to drown. To drown.
Ugh.
So that's bummer.
That was a heartbreaking show. I mean, I knew the outcome of the show before I went, of course, like everybody knows the Titanic story, but it didn't prepare me for the gut-wrenching tears and sobs that were coming, and you're doing a great job here.
I always cried, yeah.
I mean, one time my family drugged me to, you were little, I think, at the time. They drugged me out to the movie Marley and Me, and I didn't realize what that was about until I saw the dog limp up the steps, and I'm like, oh no, we're in trouble here.
Yeah, and I was in another show, Velveteen Rabbit, which was supposed to open in March, but it's been postponed until August.
Yeah, I hope that happens.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah, so besides that, I did involved in theater there. I did women's choir, dance ministry, so yeah, a couple of fun things.
Well, that's awesome. Well, we're really proud of you, and this week, Sunday and Monday, you and I will be journeying back up to Wenham, Massachusetts, to get the remainder of your items that have been left over in the dorm room and find whatever science projects might be growing there.
I did not take a science class, so we'll be fine.
Well, I mean, like the food.
I have a dirty mug on my desk. Yeah, it'll be nasty.
Okay, well, that's embarrassing. All right, so what we've come to tonight to talk about in the next probably about 15 minutes together is to talk about your trip to your spring break trip with your fellows program. And did you tell us about your fellows program?
I didn't.
No, why don't you do that?
You want me to?
Yeah, tell us what that is.
Sure. Okay. So at Gordon, we have 3 first-year fellows programs. There's the Ministry Fellows Program, the Venture, which is like an entrepreneurial business one, and then the Justice Fellows, which is what I'm in. And we study issues of justice, food justice, looking at biblical lenses of justice, figuring out what it means to us. And so throughout the year, we've done various things like volunteering at the Greater Boston Food Bank and going on the winter walk for homelessness in Boston. And then our year, we also did a bunch of readings. We did a political discipleship reading, and then all of it
Culminates.
Yeah. I have trouble with that word.
Oh, that's a good
Culminates
word.
into our spring break trip, which in the past had...
You had trouble with the word milk when you were little. You used to say Nolt.
That doesn't sound like that.
I know it doesn't.
That's so
but
weird.
That's what you did, yeah.
Which...
So you went culminates
into a spring break trip, which originally was just a week in Washington, D.C., but they've expanded it this year to include El Paso, Texas, and Juarez, Mexico, to sort of think about and address issues of immigration.
Well, that's really important because obviously that's a huge, has been a huge topic in politics and in our nation recently. And there's no clear answer on how to handle that, and lots of different opinions.
Yeah.
And so going there, I'm sure, and seeing some of the things you saw probably brought a lot of insight to you. So we're going to find out about that. Here's a picture of your crew in Washington, D.C. So you traveled with a number of people, it looks like.
Good-looking people.
Sure are.
Yeah. There were 12 of us all together. Only 11 of us went to El Paso, but 12 students, I should say. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's good. Okay, so when you were in Washington, what kind of things did you do there?
So we did some volunteering with some organizations. We ate some pretty good restaurants, did some sightseeing, of course. But I think the coolest thing we did, and really the standout part of our trip, was we did lobbying on behalf of this faith-based organization called Bread for the World. And they're fighting for food justice and security throughout America and abroad. They're a really great organization. You should look them up. They use manna packs, of course. And so we lobbied on behalf of them for $200 million to increase spending on food security efforts.
So you got to mix with the senators and congresspersons.
Well, they're assistants.
They're assistants. Okay. No time for the actual bigwigs, I guess. But you guys.
Very nice people, though. Still.
Oh, that's awesome.
You know, we didn't shake hands in D.C. We had to elbow.
Oh, so that was the beginning.
Yeah,
of it.
that was the start of
so you had
it.
To do one of these jobbies.
One of those.
Okay. Yep. All right. That's good.
Yeah, it's good.
All right. So then from D.C. you flew to El Paso.
Yeah.
Dallas, and then on to El Paso. Yeah. So then what did you experience in El Paso? Why don't we talk first about, before we get to the actual part of the trip that you went to, let's talk about the tragedy that occurred in El Paso at the, of all places, at the Walmart that was there. Can you remind us about that? There's some...
So while we were in El Paso, we got the opportunity to learn about the El Paso Walmart shooting, which happened really recently. It was August 3rd in 2019. A man drove from Dallas to El Paso.
Well, how far is that? That's
like 11 hours.
11 hours?
He drove this length specifically to shoot people and kill people.
Well, you've really got to be committed to do that.
Yeah. So he chose the tax exemption day when he knew a lot of people would be coming over the border from Mexico to take advantage of the lower prices. So he didn't have a set place in mind. He walked into this Walmart. He saw a bunch of people who looked Hispanic to him, looked like they were migrants. He went back out to his car, got his gun, came in and killed 22 people and injured 26 more people. And that's really a tragedy that has scarred El Paso, because El Paso is one of the safest cities in the world. It is, or in America, not the world.
Well, maybe in the world too. Yeah.
So it was really heartbreaking to hear about. He went in looking for people who specifically looked Hispanic and who he thought were migrants. And most of the people he ended up killing weren't migrants at all. They were U.S. citizens. So.
Well, didn't matter who died. I suppose it'd be terrible. So one of the things I think that fuels hatred and bigotry is lack of information, lack of knowledge, and lack of personal understanding someone from a personal perspective. I know you're going to talk about that a little later. So here's a picture of what is this?
Yeah, that's the official memorial for the shooting, which is in the parking lot of the Walmart where it happened. It has 22 sides to represent the 22 victims, and at night it lights up to represent the candles that people put out in front of the Walmart after it happened.
So that's the official memorial, and then kind of like the grassroots movement always kind of does their own thing too, and I think we have a picture of that.
This is in a park which is nearby to the Walmart, and it's just a bunch of things that people collected. There's, signs in Spanish and English, artwork, wreaths, flowers, ribbons. There are orange ribbons tied on there to respect the people who lost their lives and the families.
That's beautiful, really.
Yeah, it was really something to see. Really cool.
Well, Hannah, I don't mean to diverge from this topic, but we do have our first question that's come in on
a very important one
on YouTube, and that question is, what are those earrings? What's the deal with those earrings?
They're faces, sort of artsy, abstract faces.
Yeah.
Very liberal arts college of me. So.
Yeah, it's probably in the TikTok video. Hannah likes big floppy earrings, so if you're ever wondering what some of her favorite wardrobe things are, big floppy earrings is part of that. Okay, so thank you for sharing about the Walmart Memorial. It is related to our topic because of the the anger and the hatred that was directed towards a particular group of people. So you also you visited some places while you were there, and we want to talk a little bit about the experience of the wall. We've heard so much about the wall, the wall, the wall. What is the wall?
So it's not a wall. Okay, it's a fence. It's there are different heights. There you can see we're along one of the borders.
You're walking in the United States?
Yeah, that's the United States.
And then on the other side of the fence is also the United States.
Okay. And then a little farther away, it's Mexico.
All right. So
that
there's
way
like
a
no man's land or something.
Yeah, so they can still have border agents on the other side of it.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this fence, there's a couple different types of fences. We saw two different kinds. This one is a double graded fence, a double mesh fence. So there's 2 layers of steel mesh, and then it goes down into the ground quite far, and it's quite high as well. Sorry, you don't have a good picture of that. But this one, Border Patrol agents particularly like because they can see through it easily. They can see what's on the other side. But it is sort of easy to climb over. So that's something they don't like about. This other one, which we're beside, sorry, it's not a good picture, but we didn't feel it was appropriate to take head-on pictures of this fence because literally right on the other side was someone's backyard in Mexico. So we didn't really feel like that was appropriate to take a picture of head-on. But this one is metal chutes going up and down, metal bars with a metal bar at the top, which is more effective in stopping people from climbing over, though it's a little harder to see through.
All right. So you met with the Border Patrol.
Oh yeah. Yep.
I think we have a picture of that. Tell us a little bit about your impressions of the Border Patrol. Was it a surprising experience? Were they what you thought or different than you thought?
I wouldn't say that it was particularly surprising. So
here it looks like you're getting like a talk from the Border Patrol.
So we were there, and there were a bunch of other groups there as well, listening to them speak. And they talked about basically what their job is, what their job isn't, especially. And then there was some time.
Well, could you elaborate on those two things? What is it and what isn't it?
So when people cross over the border illegally, they detain them. That's what they do.
That's their job.
They don't arrest them. They don't send them back to Mexico or whatever other.
Right. So I read somewhere that actually most of the people coming into the United States now from the southern border are probably from Central American countries below Mexico.
Most are from Honduras or Guatemala. That's where a lot of the immigrants or migrants right now are coming from. But their job isn't to kick them out. Their job is to detain them so that they can have their case reviewed by ICE. So they're just detaining. They're not doing any of that.
So if they're seeking asylum, they would be treated one way. If they're whatever the situation might be. So ICE determines that. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's a different discussion. What about do they ever provide emergency care?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like especially in this area, there's a lot of desert, which people cross over. There's no walls there because it's not necessarily needed because the terrain is so harsh. But they cross over the desert, and when and they have sensors in the ground too, where they can tell if anyone is crossed. So when the sensor goes off, they go there, they find someone. First thing they ask them is, do you need water? Do you need medical attention? Because often these people are traveling great distances without any food or water, and you don't know what they've been through. So that's one of their priorities when they detain these people.
Right, so they're actually providing life-saving function there.
Often,
We have a
yes.
question coming in from one of our viewers. The question is a great question. Maybe you know the answer, maybe you don't. Where is it that they detain them?
They just have, like, in their Border Patrol offices, from what I gathered anyway, they have holding, I guess, cells, holding places for them until they're taken by ICE and either sent back, detained in a detainment facility, or processed.
Yeah. And if you don't know the answer to this, it's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not expected to be an expert here. You're only telling us about your week-long spring break trip. What did any idea of like the length of time that goes by? Yeah.
No.
So that's when this obviously becomes a humanitarian crisis.
Yeah, there was one instance specifically when there was a huge amount of people coming in, and ICE wasn't prepared for it, and so they put the responsibility on Border Patrol to put these people, this mass number of people, somewhere, and that's when we saw people being put under bypasses and bridges and living in, really bad conditions. That's when we saw that, because Border Patrol isn't supposed to be doing those things, but that responsibility was put on them.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah. So really put into a tough situation.
Yeah.
At the Border Patrol.
Because they had no, they didn't have anywhere to put these people.
So part of your experience was to visit migrant shelters.
Mm-hmm.
So you visited 2 of them, I think, maybe more. And one was in Juarez, right? And one was in El Paso.
Yeah.
So what happens at a migrant shelter? What are the people doing there? What's going on?
So a lot of these people who are living in the migrant shelters, they're mostly they're Central American. Excuse me.
That's all right. I know, I'm a little boring.
And so they're coming through Central America, and they end up in Mexico. And these migrant shelters in Mexico and in places like Juarez are places where they can stay, have a relatively safe place to stay. It definitely varies from shelter to shelter. It's very dangerous to be a migrant in Mexico. They have access to food, water, and school for the kids. And the biggest thing they're doing is there was recently a law passed, the Migrant Protection Act, which states that migrants seeking asylum cannot stay in the United States while their case is being processed. So they have to remain in Mexico while their case is being processed. So these shelters are where most of those people are staying.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
So who's running these shelters?
Citizens in Mexico, churches, nonprofits. There's some funded by the government, and then there's so many that are not. Yeah, so.
Okay. Well, we only have a few minutes left, Hannah. There's so much more that we could talk about. This picture here, I think this might have been one of the cover pictures on some of the ads for this show. I love this mural. This was a mural, right? Tell us about this mural.
It's a really beautiful mural. So it's shows the 2 sister cities, Juarez and El Paso, and it shows how they're just connected. And
they're sister cities because they're right across the river from one another, right?
Yeah, the people who live in Juarez and El Paso, for the most part, people who were born and raised there, they see it as one city. It's not Juarez and El Paso. It's just one city to them. We met with a great man named Don Jose, who is related by some way to our director, and he and his wife lived in Juarez, and they went to high school in America. And then they worked in America, lived in Juarez, and eventually they moved to America and got their citizenship here.
And generations ago,
yeah.
Generations ago, before Texas was Texas,
it was one
right?
city.
They were just all kind of there. Yeah. So it's an interesting place in the world. All right.
No, Natalie, I did not get to meet him. I did not get a personal audience with Beto.
I think we would have. I think we would have led with that if that was the case. She would have been very, very excited. So, lastly, one more picture to talk about here, and then just going to ask you for a few final impressions of your experience there. So, this organization, Abara, right? What do they do?
So they they're a Christian organization. They do services to migrants and people trying to achieve citizenship or asylum in the U.S. They partner with the migrant shelter that we visited in Juarez pretty regularly. And then they also take groups like us and teach them about what's going on at the border. And they take us to places like the Wall and migrant shelters. Yeah. So they're a really great organization.
All right. Well, it's been fun having Hannah tell us about her trip. We'd like to have her tell us more, but before she goes tonight, I would ask her to share what is the one thing that you want us to know from your experience, or what made the biggest impression on you that was most formative from your trip?
So the previous semester, I had studied Central America and Mexico in my comparative politics class. So a lot of the situations that I saw firsthand were in a textbook for me and in news articles for me that I was studying. So this whole thing was very textbook and very academic. And then I went there and it was like, whoa, this is like a real thing. These are real people. We heard from 2 migrant women from Guatemala, and we heard very heartbreaking stories from them about how they ended up where they are now. And so it was really grounding and heartbreaking to, remember that these aren't news stories. These are people.
Right.
Yeah.
So to remember the stories as people. There's a lot of different views on how immigration should be handled, and the difference between legal and illegal immigration, and whether or not that's even a good term to use. But the truth is that there are a lot of difficult situations and a lot of things that are hard for us to know exactly how to handle something. But always treating people, no matter where they've come from, no matter what their experience is, with love. And seeing them with the value that God would see them as people created in their image. I think this is what you're trying to say. They're not a news story. They're not a statistic. They're not a anecdote that we hear. They're actual people. And the Lord said in Leviticus chapter 19. Now there's a lot of different words a couple different words that are used for a person like an alien, foreigner, sojourner, or different words that are used in the Old Testament. But this particular verse 33 of Leviticus 19, when a foreigner resides among you in your land, do not mistreat them. The foreigner residing among you must be treated as a native born. Love them as yourself, for you once were foreigners in Egypt, and I am the Lord your God. And so this command from the Lord to love people, as we love ourselves, to love people, is universal. Irregardless of political view or any of those things. And you and I maybe have a different political view on this stuff, but we have the same love for people and believing that God cares about all people, and so we need to treat people honorably and fairly. And well, Hannah, I really appreciate your time with us tonight. I'm so thankful for those who checked in, and we're really appreciative that people joined us this evening. So I think I'll end it at that, because I was going to go to another story, but I think I better just save that for another time. So we're really thankful, Hannah. Any big plans for the rest of the summer?
I will be working
at Paulus Farm Market. Stop in and buy some meat or other stuff, vegetables, ice cream.
Yeah.
Pre-made meals.
Yeah.
And they're not sponsoring this show. We just like to shop at Paulus. So anyway, and say hi to Hannah, and thank you so much for joining us. Join us again in the future. Join us again in the future for possible other mediocre episodes of
You know
Thursday
what?
Night Spotlight with Pastor George.
It can only get better after a pilot, right?
That's right. The pilot.
Is always.
No, you were pretty good.
Thank you.
The pilot typically is not as good, but I think this is probably certainly the best guest, my favorite guest that I've ever had on Thursday Night Spotlight with Pastor George. Have a good night, everyone. Join us Sunday morning here on this YouTube channel. Subscribe to our channel and join us Sunday morning at 10:30 for worship if you don't have a place that you worship for your own. And we're glad to say that that we love you, we care about you. So connect with us, and thanks for joining us this evening. Have a great night.